I'm going to make the argument that men who struggle with depression are more at risk of their partner cheating on them than men who don't struggle with depression. Now, this is largely coming from personal experience rather than scientific evidence. In fact, we don't really have much research looking into the correlation between depression and infidelity. The most substantial thing we have is a 2015 review, which pretty much just said if a partner is cheated on, they're more likely to develop depression, which really isn't that surprising. So when I say men who struggle with depression are more at risk of their partners cheating on them than men who aren't depressed, I'm saying that through personal experience. I'm also saying that through my general knowledge of differences between male and female psychology. So let me start this off with my personal story. I was with a woman for almost a decade, and by the end of our relationship, I was struggling with depression and suicidal ideation. This largely came from Lyme disease. It was a chronic illness I was dealing with, and for those who don't know, it crosses the blood-brain barrier and gets into the brain and rewires it, screws it all up. And yeah, so I was dealing with that, and I was in this relationship, and it came to my attention just a few months before things ended that she was having an emotional affair on me. I don't know if it turned physical, it doesn't really matter at this point, but that's what I know. And I remember in the moments of me discovering this, one, it was difficult because I was still in love. My feelings hadn't changed at that point, but it was difficult for me to wrap my brain around because I just kept thinking about everything I had done for her up until that point. I won't go into the personal details, but I had spent almost 10 years with her, and in that time I've obviously did a whole lot to satisfy and maintain that relationship. And for her to go out and do this, especially at a moment of my life where I was personally struggling, it just shocked me. It didn't make any sense to me. And that led to a cocktail of just negative emotions that I had to deal with and process. Like I said, it was just something I didn't understand, and the less I understood, the more emotional I felt. But I went through the healing process, and I studied the differences between male and female psychology, and the more I studied, the more things made sense. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about today. Now, when I say the more things made sense, I'm not saying the more things felt right. I still had a lot to work through personally in order to get through this, even with the understanding. But the more things made sense, the easier it became to work through things. But I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying what I learned was necessarily justified. And I imagine a lot of people watching this may be experiencing something that isn't justified. But it's just the nature of humanity, and that's what we're about to get into. Specifically, female nature and the nature of female dating strategy. Now, male and female dating strategy are two completely different things, and it's part of the reason I think a lot of men just don't understand why women make decisions that they do make in this regard. But ultimately for women, it comes down to hypergamy. If a woman is going to make herself available, whether she's in a relationship or not, she's doing so to satisfy hypergamy. Now, if you don't know what hypergamy is, in a general sense, it's when women date up. And a lot of time this is attached to obvious traits that a woman would seek out in a man, such as his financial standing, his social status, his physicality. However, the thing a lot of people get wrong about hypergamy is it's not necessarily based on logistics. It's more a feeling a woman has. And with that, a man could have no money, no social status, but still manage to satisfy hypergamy. Now, what satisfies a woman's hypergamy differs from woman to woman. I mean, no two are the same. Some, may feel turned on by a man's intellect, for example, and others may feel more turned on by his aggression. But the specifics of it don't really matter. All that matters is if a woman is going to cheat on a man, she's going to do it to satisfy hypergamy. And it's very likely that the man she's with isn't satisfying hypergamy. So my big argument here is if a man struggles with depression, he's very likely struggling to satisfy his partner's hypergamy. Now, there are obvious examples of this. Depression could be caused by or lead to financial loss. Maybe you struggle to maintain work, and as a result, your wallet is also taking a hit. Or maybe you're also self-isolating. This is another common thing found in depression. And due to this social withdrawal, your social status is also taking a hit. These are obvious examples of how male depression could dissatisfy hypergamy. But then there's also less obvious examples. One of the biggest symptoms of depression is losing interest in activities you previously enjoyed. And that could be activities that you were very ambitious about. And I guarantee one of the ways you initially satisfied hypergamy was by being ambitious about things, by appearing as though you had a path you were on and you were in a direction you were heading towards. That's what I'm trying to say. Another thing is too, a lot of men lose their libido as they experience depression, and a lack of sexual desire can have tons of negative consequences, because sexual desire is ultimately what leads to a lot of our ambitions in life and a lot of our willpower to push through things in this world. So as you can see, there's so much that could happen that could dissatisfy hypergamy when you're a man struggling with depression. And again, I'm saying these things not just through research I've done, but through my own personal experience of being cheated on while I was experiencing depression. And just looking back at who I was in that time of my life. And it's not easy for me to look back on, because I have to admit to myself that I was less desirable than, I wish I was. It's difficult. It's a difficult thing to look in the mirror and say that to yourself, but that's what was happening. That's when I came to the understanding of why these things happened to me. That's ultimately the conclusion I came to. And as I pulled myself out of depression, that became the biggest thing for me, was building up that desirability again. And it's something I continue to work on. It's something I don't plan on ever stopping. My only goal is to continue being a better man than I was yesterday. And, a lot of that mindset of mine comes from these personal experiences I went through. And so I want to conclude this video about what a man should do if he does find out his partner's cheating on him. Kind of how I went about that, and just going a little more in depth about the personal experience. The way I came to find out too was she didn't tell me. A woman will never tell you if she's doing things behind your back that she doesn't want you to know about. And this is what happened to me too, is she might not be 100% certain about the decision she's making, and therefore she wants to keep you almost on the back burner, just in case things don't work out. That's exactly what happened to me and when I, came to that realization, I made my decisions, which I'll discuss in a moment. But a woman will never directly tell you if she's doing things behind your back, but she will make it very obvious. She'll make it obvious just by being secretive. Maybe she goes out and doesn't tell you exactly where she is. Maybe she refuses to hand you her phone unlocked. She'll just have secretive behavior, and it's very obvious to pick up on, but it can be difficult if you have strong emotions towards a woman. Your emotions will tell you that you just gotta trust her, or you just gotta believe in the relationship. But as men, it's really important for us to look at things through a logical point of view, and I'm saying that again through just, I wish that's what I did when I was going through this. My emotions were very much controlling the notions I was leaving in my mind, in a manner where I was trying to convince myself that everything was okay and that she wasn't doing anything behind my back. And I wish I took a logical perspective. I really do. And I do think it's something that men kind of have to experience firsthand in order to really garner the weight of how important it is to be realistic in these situations, because emotions can be very strong. But ultimately, I think a lot of men do experience this, and maybe that's why you're watching this now. You just went through this experience and you're not 100% sure how to feel. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling. So what do you do if you do find out your partner's cheating on you? I'll tell you what I did, and I do believe that the route I took was just the best thing for both parties. And I just walked away. I just walked away from the relationship, and I never looked back. And I didn't fight her. I didn't argue with her, even though I was very angry with her, and I wanted to fight. I told myself it would be better for my own dignity to just walk away and not give her any more availability to me. I cut her out, and I started moving down a path on my own. And I think that's the best thing men can do in these situations. It can be difficult because your emotions are strong. I know a lot of men feel the need to attack and release that emotion. And it's okay to have that need to release it, but don't release it on her. It's just going to make you look worse. The best thing you can do is walk away and go to therapy, go to a rage room, start hiking, Tons of things you could do to get out those emotions. I started learning drums. I started learning how to play the drums, and my therapist actually told me it was good for me because I was getting out a lot of aggression by learning that instrument. But you want to walk away. Don't fight. Never fight. Because no matter what, you've already lost her. She's already you've already dissatisfied a part of me, and fighting is just going to make things worse. It's going to make you look insecure, almost like you're desperate, and you don't want to give off that notion. You want to remain stoic and strong, and appear like you don't need her. Appear like you got it figured out. You don't need her to carry on with your life, which you don't. All you need is God, in my opinion. But maintain your strength and deal with it yourself. It might not be, you might have been very wronged in the situation, just like I was. But ultimately, you're not going to find justice through her. You never will. And the best thing you can do for yourself, especially if you want justice, is to carry on in a manner where you're doing what's right for you, and doing it calmly, doing it with emotional stability, and doing it with the right strength. It's difficult. It's not easy. I'm not saying excuse me. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not trying to make it sound easy either, but it's what you got to do as a man. It's what we got to do as men. anyways, that about does it for this video. I'm hoping the information here can help some people out there. I'm hoping my personal story is maybe a reflection of yours and you can relate to it, and maybe take some of the knowledge I've developed through my experience and apply it to your own life. Yeah, it's not an easy process, and I went through it largely alone. And, if I had this information at the time I was going through it, I think it would have helped me greatly. But that's why I'm making this video now. That's why I'm making this content, is to hopefully help some people out there who are struggling to find answers and find the right direction. But anyways, that's about to do it. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate a subscription and a like on this video. And if you have any comments to make, maybe any advice to follow up with what I said, or any questions, by all means leave a comment. But anyways, that does it.